Welcome back to the Workflow video series for the Public Safety Report System. In the previous video, you learned about the defendant overview. In this video, you'll learn how to prepare the Public Safety Report from the defendant overview. To do this, you'll review the defendant's criminal history and answer any follow-up questions based on previous offenses. Let's start with retrieving criminal history. If you had entered the defendant's SID or FBI number in the Add Arrest wizard, the system automatically attempts to retrieve criminal history for you. On the home page, you can see the status of the criminal history search. In this scenario, I had entered the FBI number and the system successfully retrieved criminal history. I can click on this link, which takes me directly to the defendant overview in the Magistration section on the Public Safety Report tab. I can see the search status and the date and time records were retrieved. If the system could not retrieve the records, typically due to a connection issue or an invalid TLETS ID, the system would display an error status here along with details about the error. Now let's look at a scenario where I had not entered the SID or FBI number in the Add Arrest wizard because I didn't know either of them at the time. I can see on the home page that the criminal history status is not started. I have to retrieve criminal history manually. I'll click on the arrest record to go to the defendant overview. Remember in the previous video, I had chosen to split the case so that there's one arrest record for felony offenses and one record for misdemeanors. So if you also do that, you want to make sure that whenever you're working in the defendant overview, that you select the correct arrest record from this arrest selector on the left. I want to work with the felony offenses right now, so I'm making sure I've selected that record. I select the Magistration tab and then the Public Safety Report tab up top. If I now know the defendant's SID or FBI number and I have TLETS access, I can enter the number here. Recall that it's usually best to use the FBI number as it allows for a broader search across agencies and states, whereas the SID limits the search to just the state that issued the ID. I can then click Retrieve Criminal History and the system will let me know if it retrieves records successfully or if there are any errors, as I explained earlier. But what if you don't know the SID or FBI number? Or maybe you know one of those and you want to find the other one. You can use the Advanced Search feature to try to look for it. This opens a new window where you need to accept the conditions, and then we're free to search for the SID or FBI number based on other information that we do have. For example, I can search by the demographic data I have on the defendant. Maybe I know their social security number or a different identification number. And here's an example where if I know the SID number, I can search using that and try to find the FBI number and vice versa. So here I'll demonstrate searching with demographic information. And again, this is a test system, so everything in here is fictitious dummy data. Once I click search, results are displayed, and if there are multiple records, each one is listed here on the left. I can click through them for review. And what we're looking for is a record for the right defendant that includes the SID or FBI number. And here I found the right record, and here's the FBI number. So what I'll do is right-click and select Copy. And now I can exit out of the search, and I'll paste that number here. And now I can click Retrieve Criminal History, and when it's done, I can see the status. At this point, if another user did not have TLETS access, so they couldn't retrieve criminal history themselves, they can view the records you've retrieved as long as they have an ORI number listed in their user profile. Now let's go over the results. In this table, the system gives a summary of the defendant's previous offenses, including the level or degree, whether the offense was violent or not, and the disposition and sentence. You can click on an offense link, which opens up the rap sheet in a new window so you can view the details. Notice there may be information icons that you can click on that provide further guidance, such as the one for this probation sentence. On the right here, you can click View Full History to open up the full rap sheet, where you can access raw data from all the agencies, as well as bond conditions. Notice that if a particular agency returned an error message, a red icon appears next to that agency's record. Refer to your criminal history training to interpret these errors and determine next steps. Above the table of summarized previous offenses, you may see other states or agencies listed as links. This means that records were found at these agencies, but the system couldn't summarize their data nice and neat for you in this table. But you can still view the data by clicking on this link, which opens up that same rap sheet we just viewed, but takes you directly to that agency's record. This area lists any failures to appear that were recorded as 3810 offenses. And again, you can click on the link to open the raw data and jump to the spot where the failure to appear is listed. Note that this list only includes those 3810 failures to appear, so you may need to consult a separate system to determine if other failures to appear exist. In this section, the system may prompt you to answer certain follow-up questions based on the defendant's previous offenses. Your responses to these questions help determine personal bond eligibility for the defendant's current offenses and whether bail requires approval from the judge of any pending felonies. Each question only appears if it's applicable based on the defendant's previous and current offenses. For detailed instructions for each question, go to the Online Help Center and check out the Prepare the Public Safety Report topic. The Answer Follow-up Questions section goes through how to answer each question. Once you're done answering questions, click Save. And notice how your responses may update the current offenses table. These last 3 columns indicate whether each offense is eligible for personal bond, which statutory sites apply, if any, and whether bail requires approval from the judge of a pending felony. The system populates these columns based on the offense type, the defendant's previous offenses, and your responses to those follow-up questions. Further below is a list of applicable conditions. These are the default conditions that the magistrate could impose if they choose. They're just listed here for reference and review. Conditions that are triggered by a specific offense will list the citation number of that offense. The conditions the magistrate actually orders are documented on the electronic bail form, which we'll go over in the next video. If the magistrate has access to this system during magistration, they can simply review this digital version of the Public Safety Report. If they can't access this system, you can always download and print a paper copy using the print icon at the top right, and it will list the current and previous offenses, failures to appear, and applicable conditions. You can also print the criminal history details, which is that full rap sheet we saw earlier, and you can print other forms and documents as needed. Lastly, you can also refresh criminal history by clicking this Update button. You may need to do this if the defendant's record is updated in the NCIC database and you want this page to pull in those updated records. Also, records expire and disappear from this page if 120 hours have passed since the records were first retrieved and if magistration hasn't yet been completed. In that case, you'd also need to hit this Update button to pull in records again. Before we move on, there's one more scenario. Let's say you searched for the defendant's SID or FBI number and you just couldn't find one, and therefore you couldn't retrieve criminal history. In that case, select this checkbox here to indicate that. The system will still display the defendant's current offenses and applicable conditions for the magistrate to review. And you can still print the Public Safety Report. It will just indicate that you couldn't retrieve criminal history. Now we're ready to move on to the next step, which is to complete and certify the electronic bail form. But first, make sure you have reviewed or downloaded the Public Safety Report and criminal history details, as you won't be able to access them anymore once the bail form is certified. See you in the next video, and thanks for watching.